Yeah. Listen to Tea Time with Honey Bee Con. Beeline for the nectar, now we're gonna refine. Pure gold to the brain, no you cannot deny. Nutrition for the mind that will open up your eyes. Listen to Tea Time with Honey Bee Con. Beeline for the nectar, now we're gonna refine. Pure gold to the brain, no you cannot deny. Nutrition for the mind that will open up your eyes, yeah. Welcome to Tea Time.
Hello, good morning, good evening, good night, afternoon, wherever the fuck you are, it doesn't matter. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Tea Time with Honey. We've got a couple of special guests from my teenage years on the podcast today. Guys, this is Olivia.
Hey, guys.
And Carmen.
Hi, guys.
We've got Chris here and Omar.
Hello.
You can't get rid of me.
You're the tech guy.
Yeah, I guess kinda. I happen to own the stuff. I'm not sure how tech savvy I really am.
Alright, so we're just going to be doing a basic, general discussion on everything that's happening right now with the Black Lives Matter movement and fucking Trump trying to enact martial law and fucking... We've been off the air for a couple of weeks because I've been dealing with my grandmother's death, and we're doing this whole lawsuit with the nursing home because nursing homes are super understaffed right now and neglecting their patients.
Yep.
It's fucked up. But anyway, guys, let's get into this thing.
Hey, start the car, drive
Does
it.
anyone want to start?
What's that?
I'm just saying, steer us.
What does anyone have to say about what's happening right now? Let's start with the movement, the protests.
I think the protests are going awesome. I think that a lot of the news medias are basically showing, all the 1% of people, looting. And they're not showing the, huge amounts of people who are stepping in and preventing those kinds of things. I saw somebody, ripping up the sidewalk, and the protesters took them and brought them to the police, and they're not showing those kinds of things, I think it's awesome to see that there's so many. What was it? I saw on the news today, it was, over 100,000 people marching in Washington today. So that just shows, how many people are supporting this, and it's good to see everybody come together for this because it's obviously something that we need. We can't continue to have people killed because they were on the ground and some officer decided to not take his knee off of him while he screamed for his mother and then he couldn't breathe, It's the fifth person that week that happened to, so I think it's good.
I'm going to be hitting up the protest on Sunday with my brother, doing small little interviews and hanging out, taking some recordings and videos and pictures, and just trying to help out however we can.
I think we
should.
Are
you going to Boston?
We're going to be in Lawrence.
Okay, cool.
I think you should go ahead and use
Carmen said that she was going to be joining us.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to join you guys.
Me and and my friend Ashley are all gonna go.
Good shit.
I love it.
I think you should.
My
apologies. I keep trying to.
No worries. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think you should use that as a platform to get your page up and running on Facebook. Just load it up with stuff from the protests when you go down there.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm gonna be using the videos to spread awareness, but I'm not going to use it as a boost for my page. That's not the plan. That's not the idea.
Understandable.
That it just kind of sounds like I'm making it about myself, and that's not what we want.
Yeah,
true. Very true, very true. Hey, turn me
I also
around.
think, though, it would be good to spread, what's going on a little bit more, because I see, a lot of videos on, like, TikTok and, like, a bunch of other places that are showing, what's really going on out there instead of just the news.
Exactly. Fucking,
Sure.
like, the media's not going to show everyone that the cops maced little girls. They're not going to show them that they fucking kicked in a pregnant woman's stomach, causing her to fucking miscarriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy too that that Trump went over to that church,
To the church.
and then maced. They had the priests maced who were protesting outside. I thought that was crazy.
That I didn't know that they maced the priest.
Yeah, there was a whole article about how the priests were not happy about it, and
because he's using it as a fucking prop.
But
right.
there was also people outside the White House that were religious people, a couple of priests from different other churches that were also tear gassed and all that. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
I watched.
And I mean, the audacity, the absolute caucasity of this man to actually walk through a crowd of deeply religious, deeply spiritual, deeply hurt and affected individuals and say, I am sending military police at you, I'm sending Secret Service at you, I'm sending everybody and their mother at you to attack you and push you back when you're standing here peacefully on holy ground, so I can stand here with a Bible in my hand like I've never seen a book before.
He looks like
just
somebody.
By the way, he may have never read.
Oh, he absolutely has never read it.
The way
Absolutely.
he's holding it makes it seem like it's actually hurting him.
He
Like
looked,
you could tell he feels out of place with it.
he looked deeply disturbed by the idea of even holding a book. Like it was going to bite.
Honestly.
He didn't know what to do with it, or like, here we
He was
go.
like trying to figure it out. It was like flipping it. It was upside down at one point.
It's like watching a toddler try to figure out a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, exactly. One of the priests and ministers who had been there and who was helping out by like cleaning people's faces and getting tear gas out of their eyes and things like that. And she said it happened in just like a split second. She was there helping people out, and then she looked up, and all of a sudden there was just like a wall of police literally shoving people who were already running away, like shoving them to the ground, punching them, kicking them, pushing them out of the way. And like these were not only just peaceful protesters, but like the people that Trump himself says that he cares the most about, right? The religious, the spiritual, the people who have this sort of like moral righteousness leading them. He says he cares about these people, but then he's sending harm to them in order to take a picture with the Bible and a couple of other white guys.
I felt really bad about that part, but on the other hand, because a lot of religious people, including people in African American churches, were so quick to kick his ass, and he showed them who he is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find.
I hope they know now.
Trying to
Yeah, if
find.
they didn't know before, they better know now.
I'm trying to find the name of his press secretary, the young lady that popped up on television today to kind of spin the whole thing, what happened, that walk that he took to the church, and basically likened him standing in front of the church with the Bible to Churchill looking at the rubble from the war, basically going and inspecting the demolished buildings.
So, God.
She tried to.
A lot of people have
Churchill.
showed the likeness of him and Hitler holding his book too. I thought that was a little bit more. That was a little bit more on point for me.
Who held that back?
Agreed.
So the press secretary is Kayleigh McKinney.
Okay.
The new Barbie looking chick that he has now?
Yeah. I mean, they're always
That girl
little
ain't Barbie.
fucking wannabe Barbie fucking girls. Just the last one he had was...
Go watch.
They should hire Tammy Laren to do that job next.
Go watch that press conference. Her interaction with the public. There is no better physical depiction of the name Karen ever. No place you can find
Karen. This woman, just the way that she speaks as if like everybody is beneath her and like she has some sort of right to, well, she's like the person calling for the manager who doesn't actually want to talk to the manager. She just wants to create a scene.
Yes, very Tommy Lahren-esque.
Yes, very much so. They could be twins.
The big difference is
can be very condescending.
Most Karens don't have power, but they act like they have it. This one actually has some power, and Lord help us.
That's the problem. I don't know how half of these people. It's still baffling to me how they even got there in the first place, because like to me, when I'm looking at them, it's very clear that they're lying. They're just they're putting on a front, or they're just blatantly looking at your face and telling you something that is disgusting and like morally disgusting, reprehensible, and they're still supporting them, and it's just like crazy to me.
And they say with a sense of self-righteousness, like they're on the right, like they're right to say what they're saying, to support what they're supporting, and they'll find so many logical and illogical explanations to things that I'm like, how do they come up with this stuff? It's hard. Yeah. I've seen things in the news that one of you tell me, look, this person, they asked him about this and that, and his answer was this and that. I wouldn't believe it.
Right. I mean, let's not forget, Kellyanne Conway coined the phrase alternative facts.
Right.
Alternative facts.
Like, so don't even try to justify that.
Right, exactly. Like, alternative facts. That's what we've been dealing with since day one here. And it's like they're like, my racism isn't racism. My sexism and homophobia is not sexism or homophobia. My sexual assault of people is not that. Everything that they choose to talk about, they flip it to be the opposite of what it is. And then they try to gaslight the American people into believing that we are at fault for how we are being treated.
It's like
and I think they have put this idea on the minds of dumb people where they really feel they're talk to you nowadays in a way that like my ignorance is as good as your intelligence.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's the problem with the protests right now, is that people have been stuck inside and they've been dealing with these kind of people for so long, watching them do these kinds of things, and then this happens, and they're so worked up about it that they just start taking it out.
I don't know about you, but I mean, I've been watching the TV. I've been stuck inside for 3 months plus, just like everybody else, and it's been like 4 years now, and I am dog tired of sitting around and watching these people tear down a country that I love, and while they're tearing it down and feeding us shit and lying to our faces, they're telling us that they're doing it in the name of trying to make this country great again. Yeah, no. I don't believe it.
And then they tell us that we're unpatriotic for fighting against it. Yep, which is even worse.
If a law
you gotta understand, to these people, even recognizing that there are some problems and that this is not perfect, to them that's un-American.
Right. If a law is unjust, man is not only right to disobey it, he is obligated to do so. Thomas fucking Jefferson.
Let's be entirely honest about the history books. Our entire country was built off of theft, genocide, murder, and it was all pretty much perpetrated by Protestant and Quaker white folks who came over here, who were considered religious extremists in their own country. They didn't want them here. They were basically persecuted, had to go find a new place to live.
Right.
So I don't know about you. I don't want the America that used to be. I'd like to build a better America. And we're not getting it with the people that are currently in office.
Right. And I also want to pose the question. Like, I want to pose the question, like, make America great again. Okay, but again as compared to when? Because last time I checked, my people are standing outside right the fuck now, in this very second that we're speaking, and saying, you've been killing us, you've been oppressing us, you've been taking things from us for hundreds of years. So what kind of again are we looking at? Because in my eyes, for people of color, for women, for people with disabilities, all across the board, America has never been that great to us. And I love this country, but I know that we can be better. And I'm a little bit pissed off that we're not better yet, because we've been saying this for years.
Honestly,
well, you gotta
all the boomers just got to die out.
Yeah. You got to understand that great again definitely defined the message in itself. That phrase defines the message in itself. Who was it ever great for?
Right.
Only the white man, the rich white man.
Who was he talking to?
Right.
Only the rich white man.
What he wants is, I believe what he was talking is probably 1940s and 50s. Basically back when, I don't even want to say some of the things that I'm thinking in my head right now, because he basically wants everybody in their places. He wants the women in the kitchen. He wants everybody of color to be in their place, and their place is out of sight, out of mind, so he doesn't have to deal with them. As far as he's concerned, and this is how a lot of very wealthy folks do think, it's you're the workforce. And as far as he's concerned, we're the worker bees, and he wants you in your place and shut up and do your work and let us earn our money. That's all he wants.
Shut up and dribble.
Right, exactly.
I think a lot of the supporters too aren't seeing what the problem is, because before for them it was great, and they were so oblivious in their white privilege and in their wealth and their status that they never even cared to look and see what was going on for other people. So they're so on board with this because it was great for them at one point.
Right.
And now they're now in a position where they're for once inconvenienced, and suddenly that's not okay for them to be inconvenienced, because we're the ones who are supposed to be inconvenienced now. The black person's the one who's supposed to be inconvenienced, the LGBT community, the poor community. And we've always been inconvenienced, so why not?
Right.
All the little worker bees are just that. Little worker bees. They don't matter.
Let's be honest about Trump's base, too. The folks that are rabidly still holding on to their support of him are still supporting him because they realize that if somebody with even a modicum of intelligence ends up in that office, that they are going to have to go back to being the assholes in the closet. They're not going to be able to be assholes out in the open anymore, because nobody's going to deal with it. But with him in office, as they feel they've got a voice in office.
Exactly. They feel empowered and emboldened by his rhetoric.
I mean, and I think that this goes to like a major topic of like complicity from like the people in his family who are part of groups that have been marginalized and like murdered. Like his daughter and her husband are Jewish, right? Like personally, as a Jewish person, I don't see very much Judaism in the way that they act, but that's none of my business. I'm just saying that then they see, like when Charlottesville happened, they see people, neo-Nazis, marching in the street saying Heil Trump, and they're quiet as all get out about the fact that their father-in-law, pulls out from the crevices the absolute, like, scum of the earth, and they are drawn to him. You don't draw to you people that don't have traits that aren't, like, spoken to by your rhetoric and by who you are as an individual. So if he didn't speak to neo-Nazis on some level, they never would have pulled themselves out of the corners to align themselves with him.
Exactly.
That's
It's his level of complicity throughout his administration and his family that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
There's very fine people on both sides, but suddenly people simply ask to just be considered as people, and suddenly they're fucking terrorists. Like, what the fuck is that shit?
The Trump clan,
The people who are actually terrorists.
the folks in the Trump clan, they wear their religion like a Boy Scout and or Girl Scout wears a badge. You see this right here? I did this once. This is what I do. I did this once. It was a long time ago, probably when I first started. I did this once. Now I do this forever. Have you been to church? No, but I did do this once.
I took the Bible one time, so clearly I'm religious. I went into a synagogue one time, and I'm a whole Jew. Like, no.
I've read a couple of reports too about the neo-Nazi movement in America and how it's grown like substantially since Trump went into office.
They have
and yet everyone wants to say that Trump had nothing to do with that.
I don't think.
Sure.
I don't think it's grown as much as we think it has, but they're out in the open more than they were.
Right.
They were always there. It's just now they're out in the open in there because, I mean, nobody was going to put up with this, like with Obama in office, anybody else in office. Trump, he calls them very fine people, and they come out of the frickin' woodworks.
Right.
I mean, like, connecting it back, there was a officer not directly involved in the George Floyd case, but in a recent case who he was selling his home, and a black man toured the home, and he saw Confederate flags, he saw Nazi paraphernalia, he saw all of these things, and he basically said, I had to post about this on Facebook. I'm looking at your house. You are, like, opening your home to me, and I am going to, like, put you on blast for this, because clearly your beliefs are such that they could affect your job. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so common that people are like, this is my KKK application on my wall, but don't discriminate against me for being a shitty person.
Yeah, right? Fucking, it, like, also, real funny how not even a fucking month ago, there was a massive group of white fucking folk with fully loaded weapons. What was it? The State House in Minnesota?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
The State House in Minnesota?
Same
they
state.
fucking walked into the State House with fully loaded weapons, screamed in the faces of the officers. They physically fucking touched them. They were like fucking poking them and taunting them and shit. Cops didn't do a goddamn thing. You're not allowed in fucking government buildings with weapons. Are you kidding me?
Well, let's put this in
fully automatic
perspective.
AR-15s. Thank you, Alfredo.
It's a lot easier for you to take down somebody that's unarmed than somebody with a weapon in their hand.
Okay, but why the fuck were they not taken down? That's what I'm saying. These peaceful protesters are getting shot in the face with fucking massive rubber bullets. These protesters are getting gassed for sitting in front of the cops a couple of minutes past curfew. That most of them don't find out about until after the curfew. There have been hundreds of posts about people finding out about this curfew after it's done.
Right.
Well,
And that's why cops are fucking. That's why what happened in Boston, because people didn't find out about the curfew until after it fucking happened, and the cops started fucking driving their cars through the crowd.
And I think the other important thing to realize here too is this is what they want. If they wanted us to know about the curfew, we would all know about the curfew, because remember that time when a missile was headed towards Hawaii? Like, we all found out about that hella quick. We did not find about that after the fact. We found out about it as it was happening. Yeah. And now, somehow, the warning system doesn't work to where we can be warned ahead of time. No, this is what they want. They want us to seem like we're breaking the rules in order to be able to do whatever they want to us with impunity, hurt us with impunity, kill us with impunity, and then have an excuse to bring back to the people who don't really believe in the reality of our country, so that those people will never look any further, and that curtain will stay there.
Yep.
I mean, back to Trump's tweet, too, of where he was discussing these white protesters as nice people and they should be negotiated with. And then all of a sudden these black protesters are thugs. And so now, for us, it's blatantly clear that he's a raging racist by now, along with many other things. But for the people who disagree with us that it isn't really this bad, then they see people out past curfew and getting tear gas, and they go, oh, well, they deserved it. And I think that's the message that's being perpetuated by the Trump administration and a lot of the police stations, that they deserve it because they're breaking the law, when everybody is not seeing the full picture of what's going on out there.
And that's like a typical like through line in every one of these cases. Like if you think back to Eric Garner, Michael Brown, all of those situations, even Ahmaud Arbery, right? Like, did we see what we saw when we watched this happen to them? Did that really happen? We need to know what happened before that. If they were resisting arrest, they must have deserved their death. If they were selling a loose cigarette, they must have deserved to be shot or choked or whatever the case may be. And it's like, okay, first of all, your whole like thought process on that is screwed up, because no matter what crime I commit, there's no reason that once you've subdued me, you should kill me. There's no reason for it. And every time you take a white man into custody, Dylan Roof, any of these massive school shooters who don't kill themselves, like, they come out unmarked, unblemished. They come out perfectly fine and with their lives. So clearly there's a disparity here. And the through line is black people are inherently more criminal. And because of that, they require more force. And because of that, we are allowed to murder them.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh my god, fucking, I just had a thought and it flew away from me. Hold on. Hi.
Do you need us to keep chatting?
I got it. Keep chatting.
Keep the chatting?
Keep chatting. I'll remember it in a minute.
It's alright, this happens frequently. It's alright. It mostly happens to me, though. You don't do that that often.
I know.
I'm rubbing off on you. You've spent too much time with me. Really.
God, I forgot what I was going to say.
I think that a lot of people, especially with, I mean, we saw that whole list that I posted within the feed yesterday. I think with a lot of people, let's be entirely honest. It's whatever justification that they can give to the news event, whatever's going on, that allows them to forget and move on. And I think that the problem is that it's come high time that we stop trying to fucking forget. That this is not something that needs to be brushed under the table. This is not something that needs to be ignored because a new story comes up. And Trump is the king of that. Because he's got a whole website dedicated to all the ways that he's lied, fucked up, and basically buried facts, like big things that he's been doing, because what he does is he piles 10 more on top of it and you forgot the last one that you were looking at. You know?
Right.
We cannot do that with this issue at all.
Right. I think a lot of what he's doing is he's doing a lot of crazy things. He's saying a lot of crazy things, not only to gain support from a very few select amount of people, but also to take the focus off of what he's actually focusing on.
Yeah.
So I saw this article on how Trump wants to put like censorship online and like start monitoring people and shit and like all that fucked up like China bullshit. And fucking like later on, I think it was on TikTok or Facebook or Twitter or something, I don't know, I saw a post saying that they're trying to pass a bill right now that would limit people's freedom of speech and all that shit online, and people are allowed to vote on it, but you can't vote on it if you don't know about it, and they're trying to do this in secret.
Right. Which is happening a lot of the times with a lot of these laws. They're trying to cover it up so that the people that they don't want to see it don't see it.
Exactly.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff I saw in what was going on in the LGBT legislations, and they were trying to push back a lot of the laws that had been passed, and nobody knew about it until after the fact that it was already, you know, they already lost, and then it came out into the open that they were trying to, like, push back marriage equality, they were trying to push back women's rights, and they do it the same thing in these cases with race, is that they just try to cover it up with something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they're not covering it up with something else, they're trying to use a tiny
disaster.
Bit of, right, or like a tiny
to
bit of
redirect your attention
context to cover up like the underlying issue. Like, for example, what we were talking about in the feed earlier about how like they're saying that he had all of these substances in him, and that's what caused his demise. Oh, I'm sorry, he wasn't healthy enough for you to strangle him for 9 minutes? Who would have thunk? Like,
they're trying to say he had like fentanyl.
Where they try to put sort of this like mask and all these smoke and mirrors around every single issue, to the point where like if you're fighting through the smoke on one issue, your brain can only hold so much. Like, you can't fight through the smoke on every single issue, and they know that. They know we don't have the energy for that shit.
Right. And I think that they also know very well of the divide between Americans when it comes to drug abuse and drug addiction, and they take advantage of that. And so I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not usually one to say that the toxicology was wrong or that they may have faked it, but to me, that man did not look like a meth addict. And
no, absolutely not.
No,
I mean, the guy was like 300 pounds of muscle. Like,
exactly.
There's no way.
I like personally having experience in addiction and in all of these like different things. I know like what it looks like. I can see it on a person's face from a mile away. If you are in recovery, if you have just relapsed, if you've never been in recovery. I know an addict when I see an addict, because we can spot those behaviors and we can spot those physical characteristics. And a physical characteristic is the weight drops off of you faster than if you cut your own arm off.
Oh my God. Okay. So, Carmen, we have a mutual friend. I'm not going to say his name on the cast, but he's a mutual friend from back before Chico passed away.
Uh-huh.
And he had gotten out of prison, and he was like 300 pounds of pure muscle.
Yep, looked like a thumb hole, like this part was all big.
Was fucking built.
Jacked.
After a few months being out of prison, he had the white crusty meth lips, and he was skinny, and his face was sunken in, his eyes were all bloodshot, and fucking like he had what looked like black eyes, but like it was just dark circles because he's not sleeping because he's on fucking drugs.
Right. And let's be real, nobody does meth recreationally.
Yeah.
Right. It all turns to that. Look.
Yeah.
Right. You're not
and
like
fucking
the occasional meth user. Like, look at me, I'm fancy.
Right. Me and Chico like went to go drop something off for him, and like Chico went in by himself. I waited outside for him. And when he came out, he like was on the verge of fucking tears, because this was like a brother to him, and fucking like his whole physical appearance had changed. He was falling apart. He did not look like himself, and it just like it broke my heart. And I was kind of glad that I didn't see him that day, but I saw him later on, and it just like it broke me inside. He was doing so fucking good, and it just all fell apart. I don't know how he's doing now. I'm pretty sure he's like doing better. He had babies.
Yeah. He looks, from what I have gathered, he looks better, and that's the thing. Is like you can tell, like the weight falls off of them like it had never been there. And it's not just that they lose weight; they become sunken. Their skin becomes sort of like
waxy
and like droopy. Not like elastic like your skin should
There's
be.
There's scabs all over the place.
They pick. There's all of these different like things that you can tell. And George Floyd exhibited nothing of those things.
No,
there was none of that look of like dehydration that you get when you use an amphetamine or a stimulant. There was none of that. And like, though I did see him in the video appear to stumble, to me, that could be anything from like, this cop is pushing me too hard and I'm not prepared to take that step, and so I'm stumbling because I'm being pushed, to like your baseline case of like, maybe I had a drink earlier in the day. But that does not negate the fact that they put him on the ground and sat around while their little buddy kneeled on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, 4 minutes of which he had already released his bladder and was no longer conscious or able to move or breathe and was pulseless. It is not a complicated case to understand, but there they are trying to muddy the waters and say, well, drug addict, so drugs did this to him. No, your knee did this to him. Let's not lie to each other. Oh, he wasn't healthy enough to be strangled for 9 minutes? Who the fuck is?
I mean, They had a cop car there. He was unarmed, and there were 4 of them. Why could they not have put him in the car and just taken him to wherever the hell they had to take him?
And he was asking them to let him up, and they wouldn't do it. Chauvin kept saying to him, stand up. What do you want? Stand up. Excuse me, how am I supposed to stand up? Your knee is in my neck.
Right, which is what he said. He said, I'm trying. You got to get your knee off of my neck first.
Exactly.
But, I mean, I think that when it really comes down to it is we're having all these protests, and eventually we're going to have to collectively kind of decide what needs to happen from here. And after I'm seeing all of these police chiefs and everything taking knees, they're marching with the protesters and everything, and that's all well and good, but I mean, there were 3 other officers there who repeatedly asked, don't you think we should take him up and put him in the cop car? And Chauvin sat there and said, no, we're going to leave him here. So it tells me those police officers knew what was happening. They continued to try to kind of like mildly persuade him to get his knee off of him while a man died underneath him. And that's the problem that's going on in the police stations right now, and in the whole situations that are going on, is that people are watching this happen, but because they're fellow police officers, they're not going to question it, and they just go along with it. I don't think every police officer is racist, but they're continuing to allow these people to kill black men on the ground.
Everyone likes to say, oh, it's only a few bad cops, but there's certain jobs don't have any room for that kind of behavior. You can't have just a few bad doctors or surgeons. You can't just have a few bad psychiatrists that are going to tell you, oh, don't worry, it might be okay if you try to kill yourself. You might survive. But if you don't, hey, at least your problem's over. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, what? Oh, my God. Sorry.
I feel like the other thing...
Jobs, especially like presidency, like certain jobs, you cannot have a few bad apples. There's no room for it.
Right, and let's be clear, the phrase is not a few bad apples, so let's keep eating apples. The phrase is a few bad apples spoil the bunch. The bunch, which means that if there are a few bad cops and nothing is done about them, as it hasn't been for years, you're all bad until you all do something about it.
I remember what I was
of the matter.
Go
ahead, sorry.
I remembered the fucking thing. Why is it that fucking it takes longer to get a cosmetology degree or to get a tattoo license than it takes to become a police officer? Why don't they have that kind of in-depth training?
Right. I mean, they do in other countries.
In other countries, but not here. Right. Like, what the fuck?
Right, like, which I've been hearing people are saying from other countries on the internet is just that. Like, I've heard a bunch of people from Norway asking, who are also protesting in their own countries, and Japan and I think New Zealand are also, but I've heard a lot of people from Norway specifically, their police officers get, I think, 3 years of intensive training and de-escalation. And our police officers aren't even trained to de-escalate. They're just taught if they think they should shoot, to shoot.
Yeah.
It should be
And there was a segment on John Oliver's show last week tonight with John Oliver. That's a great show. Where he was talking about cops and their training. And at one point, he had a former cop who had gone through the training and who also taught the training, who basically there is a game called the finger guns game that they do. And basically each person is supposed to like pretend to shoot each other with finger guns. And if like the cop doesn't say bang before the criminal does, that means they've gotten shot and they've been killed. So it teaches them to any slight move, assume that it's going to be your death. And so teaching them to react before logically processing through the information, teaching them that like the slightest move requires a shooting or the slightest move requires a vicious takedown, that teaches them that they don't have to think, they don't have to be discerning, and then their underlying biases are like brought to the forefront and they're acted upon every single time. If you teach people to think and to work through information, albeit quickly, they won't be as likely to act upon their own biases.
Exactly. Fucking, I've been seeing this video circulating around like every social media site of a group of cops literally spitting on a protester that they arrested in the middle of a fucking pandemic. Like,
They're classy, super classy.
they're not only instigating the riots and the fucking looting, they're spreading this fucking virus more.
Two black and brown people who are already disproportionately affected by this pandemic, point blank period, look at the numbers.
We've been talking about how the cops are killing black men, but let's talk about how doctors are killing black women.
Woo!
Like,
My black soul.
so many women are getting fucking neglected and denied treatment because of their color, because doctors think they're over exaggerating or they're just looking for a fix.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Wanda Sykes had this great bit where she was talking about the fact that she had this double mastectomy to get rid of her breast cancer, and what did they send her home with? Ibuprofen is what they send her home with as a pain medication. Whereas if you go in as a white man, say, and you're like, my back hurts, they're loading you up on OxyContin and whatever the hell else kind of opiate they can give you. So in and of itself, I'm sorry, I had cancer, so I had to have both my tits removed. To me, is on a higher level than my back kind of sort of hurt because I slept on it wrong.
Hold on. Okay, so I have like crazy fucking sciatica, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went to a physical therapist and he told me that my sciatic nerve is going through the muscle, so every time I sit on a hard surface, it's getting crushed between the bone and the muscle. And there's nothing they can do about it without surgery. So for weeks, I was in excruciating fucking pain. And I kept going to the emergency room, and I was like, I don't want opiates. Like, just, I don't know, help me. Do something for, like, schedule an appointment with someone that can help me. I don't want any meds. I don't want anything. And they kept giving me cyclobenzapar. They kept trying to like force me to take these opiates. I don't even know what the fucking like street name is for this. Is cyclobenzapar? Benzapar?
It sounds like a muscle relaxer.
It is.
Which is still addictive.
It is. And I've had this script for months. I try not to take it as much as possible. I don't know. Every time I told my doctors that I don't want to take pain meds because like they're addictive and shit and whatever. They keep trying to like get me to take the prescription. And they're like, oh well, we don't really have anything else, so this is what you get.
And it's like that lack of care on top of racism that created the difference in the opioid epidemic versus the crack scourge that we saw, right? So, like, everybody's like, throw them all in jail, lock them all up, all these people doing crack, and then we get to opiates and opioids now, and because the addicts got whiter, the sentences got lighter. That's like what I've always been taught is like, it doesn't matter like what the effect is on a community. It doesn't matter if that community does not begin to affect upper class white families. Because as soon as you see Brandon and all his buddies and Chad and Thad and Trip and Skip all getting addicted, that's when they're like, it's an epidemic, we need to do something, treat them, which I am totally for, by the way. But it shows racism when you see that like this is affecting hundreds of thousands and millions of African Americans and brown people in terms of crack and other drugs, like, and they're getting thrown in jail for it as opposed to treated. Like, that disparity is in everything across the board.
Right. I mean, when I was definitely far in my own addiction and everything, I would show up to court and I would watch the people in front of me who, you know, were oftentimes Black or Latino, and they were being sent to jail. And then I would go up there, and because I had my little baby face and I'm very white, they looked at me and I mean, I've never done a day of jail time in my life, ever. And I've done the same crimes for everything, and I was always let go. I was never held for a little while. I was never nothing. They always told me I could go, and that shows you right there the difference, because they look at somebody and they say, oh, they look dangerous to me, even though I know nothing about them. So I'm going to do this to them, and then I'm going to look at this person who did the same exact thing, but they don't look that bad. So then I'm going to go and do this for them instead.
Right. It's like, it's the difference between, oh, this happened to this addict.
Right.
And this addict did this to themselves.
Right. I think a lot of times I was sympathized with a lot more than other people. Like, oh, you were stuck in a bad position. Somebody did this to you, not you did this to yourself. And I think that definitely doesn't happen from what I've seen in law enforcement for African Americans or for the Latino community.
All right, guys. So we're going to take a short break, go to our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to get back into the discussion and possibly do a little bit of the trolley.
Okay. All right.
All right. Let's do this. Hello and welcome back. We have been blessed with our sponsors.
Yeah.
Single
for right now.
Singular for right now, but that's okay. So we're going to talk about nursing homes and how fucked up this shit is. So, the past couple of weeks we've been offline because my grandmother just recently passed away. And what was it, 2 or 3 Fridays ago, she had fallen unconscious at her nursing home. And you know, her heart stopped, but the nursing home conveniently lost her DNR paperwork. So they revived her and they sent her to Lawrence General. And you know, she was in and out of consciousness there for like a week, and they had entered a hospice where she was just waiting to die at that point. And you know, my grandfather was allowed to go visit her, and they wouldn't let anyone in the family in unless they had the last name Pozluzny, and that's pretty much everyone except my grandfather and my Uncle Mike. So, it turns out that her heart stopped because of sepsis on an infected bed sore on her foot. And like a few days before she had like lost consciousness and her heart stopped, they put out an ad in my newspaper saying that the staff gathered outside for a little silent moment vigil for the patients that had passed from COVID. And the only thing I could think about was all that time that you were spending outside doing a little photo shoot for the fucking newspaper, who was taking care of the patients that was being neglected and dying in their fucking beds? I went online and I saw reviews for the place, and there's a whole bunch of reviews about people talking about their elders being left in the hallway with like a popsicle stick in their mouth that they could choke on because they've got fucking Alzheimer's, or a grandfather that had been left in his bed for hours in a dirty diaper. Like, this shit is fucking unacceptable. And my mom and my grandfather had told me that the staff, they had something like 16 people out because of coronavirus. So they were already understaffed, but that's no excuse for the patients to be neglected. And my grandmother, she was a little out there, you know, she was a little aggressive sometimes, but that's grandmas for you. And fucking, you know, she was a sweetheart. So now we have to go through the whole like process of pressing charges and everything, and it's a lot harder to do it right now because of the whole pandemic and the protests and everything that's going on. And the last I checked, her body was still with the medical examiner while they're investigating. And the fact that it's taking so long is giving me a lot of anxiety.
What's the name of the nursing home again?
Academy.
Oh, you.
And my family's asked me not to like post anything on their review pages publicly yet until after the court case is done, so they don't like press charges for harassment.
So it's probably good that.
And I totally understand that.
It's probably good that what happened just this last second happened, because when you were saying the name, you cut out completely.
Cool.
So possibly saying the name and calling them out on the podcast might not be good either.
So, I mean, we're not going to tag them in the fucking, like, bio or anything.
Oh, I can't? Damn it. All right.
No,
I wasn't sure if you were in the process yet, or, you know, what the situation was. But I've heard...
Like, I asked my grandfather if he needed me to, like, set out a GoFundMe in his name for, like, medical and legal expenses, and he said everything was covered under insurance. So, like, we're not worried about that.
So what are you trying to, what would you like to happen with this situation?
I want, once, like, the court case is over and everything, I plan on doing my own thing and trying to get them shut down. Because there's absolutely no fucking excuse.
Right, because it's not about money, it's about accountability.
And I plan on speaking to some people. I plan on speaking to a couple of reporters from the newspaper and having them put out an article about the nursing home's neglect.
Yeah, I think that's important to bring to light anyway. I took a CNA course with a friend of mine when I was really young, and I did my practical, which was 2 weeks in a nursing home as a CNA in a different town in the county. And the things that I saw were just unbelievable. I had this patient, her name was Ruth, and I went in, and she was in advanced Alzheimer's, and she had no visitors, nobody ever came to see her, and the people who worked there were really negligent in her care. Like, she was never turned And then they insisted to me that she could feed herself. And she had arthritis so bad, her fingers were like this in a fist.
Yeah.
And they pried her fingers open, jammed a spoon and a fork in them, scooped a forkful in, and jammed, a huge serving of mashed potatoes into her closed mouth. And then he said, okay, she's good, and left her there. And I said, no. I was like, I don't know what you see, but she cannot feed herself. And what you just did was not okay, so I'm going to sit here and feed her. And I sat with her every day for the 2 weeks, and they definitely didn't like me for it, but I did. And she went from eating 25% of her meal to 75 to 100. She couldn't speak coherently before, and her speech got a little better. So if they had been doing their job correctly, her speech could have lasted a little bit longer. She could have been eating more, getting more nutrients in her. She might have prevented bed sores and everything, you know what I mean? And I think that's a really big problem in nursing homes, and it just kind of gets glossed over because people either get lawsuits and then they kind of leave it alone, or I don't know what happened, but I think it's very prevalent in the nursing home community.
I 100% agree. And I have to go off for a second because
by all means,
I am a current CNA, all right, and I have some shit to say. All right, number one, patients who are bedridden should be turned every 2 hours. I don't care if you have one CNA on the floor and you are the least staffed that you've been since the opening of your nursing home. You are turning your patients every 2 hours. It is not that hard to stagger the schedule. If you make 2:10 one person's turn time, 2:15 can be the next person's turn time, and so on and so forth, so you're staggered and you are able to give the proper amount of turning to each patient that you see. It is also not difficult to look at when you're turning, to look for bed sores. If you see a bed sore, you dress it and you write it down. Not only do you tell somebody about it, but you write it down on paper in the chart so that there is no confusion about the fact there is a bed sore on this location. There is no excuse for leaving a patient to get a bed sore so badly that they become septic. That is just not the case. I took my first CNA course when I was in high school. I was a sophomore in high school when I took my first CNA class and before I restarted and everything like that. And the girls and boys that I worked with at that time, sophomores in high school, were better at taking care of patients at a nursing home than the actual staff of that nursing home. And so I've just about had enough because I'm done hearing stories about people's loved ones being neglected, especially now during COVID-19, where any amount of neglect not only is leading to your typical kind of nursing home deaths, sepsis, abuse, lack of nutrition, all of these things. Not only is it leading to that, but it's leading to cases of COVID and clusters of COVID that are spreading rapidly through these nursing homes and killing people. The reality of the situation is it is not complicated to do your job. And if you don't want to do your job, I will do your job. I don't care. I will do your job.
And we've been seeing thousands of reports of people whose loved ones are being classified as COVID deaths that aren't fucking COVID deaths. And we discussed this on the last podcast we did. And fucking, I swear to God, if they try and classify my grandmother as a COVID death, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind. Because she didn't have COVID. She was tested.
The facts just don't support that diagnosis. COVID does not cause
exactly.
sepsis.
She was tested. She didn't have it.
Right.
And, like, honestly, I'm still, the entire time that she had lost consciousness that Friday, they were telling us that she was under 24-hour supervision.
And a DNR,
there's absolutely no way she would have gotten a bed sore on her fucking foot, of all places. There's no way that she would have gotten a fucking bed sore on her foot if she was under 24-hour watch. It's not fucking possible. If they were doing their fucking job, then she wouldn't have died. Not this soon, at least. She was on her deathbed. She was close. But she wouldn't have died this soon. She wasn't fucking ready. And once she got sepsis, it was over.
No,
the
and
fact
she wouldn't
of the
have died
matter
from
is,
sepsis either, which
right,
is
exactly.
not fun.
Sepsis is, like, not to be a Debbie Downer, but sepsis is not pleasant.
No,
it's not something that, like, even the youngest of bodies, you don't just, like, oh, I'm septic, let me just fight that
I was
off.
septic once, and it's not.
Awful. It's awful. And the fact of the matter is, a DNR is legally binding. You are supposed to have a copy of a DNR at the foot of the bed in the chart, at the nurse's station in the chart, in the computer in the chart, and they're supposed to have a bracelet that also says this person is DNR. So if you do not have all of those bits of documentation, you are not doing your job right, which means you should be sued for malpractice, period. It is not hard to write 3 letters down on someone's bracelet. It is not hard to write it in a chart, on a computer, or anywhere the fuck else. It is not complicated, and you need to have that information. And if you don't, you've broken the law, and you deserve jail time. Period, end of story. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. I kind of feel like an asshole because I was on the phone with my mom a few days after my grandmother had passed, and I've told her, I was like, I don't want to be that person, but this is why I said we need to get a nanny cam for her fucking room. And my mom didn't, like, guilt trip me for saying I told you so, and she was like, I know. And I'm like, I'm so sorry for, like, even bringing it up, but, like, the person in a nursing home,
right.
Come on, man. Like, we need to have cameras.
Right.
With everything happening right now, we need to have cameras fucking everywhere.
People are always everything connects too. Like, you need to have, like, there's this idea in this country that the vulnerable are allowed to be sacrificed or treated as less than because of their state of vulnerability. It happens with the elderly, it happens with people of color, with the LGBT community. It happens across the board. Vulnerable people are taken advantage of and left out to dry. And, like, it's consistent in this country. Like, you even see it when the president and most of the GOP are saying, hey, we can reopen and not really have rules because old people are willing to die so we can go out. Who? Did you ask them? Did you ask them? No, you didn't. Did you ask people of color if we're okay getting shot? No, you didn't. You didn't ask any of these vulnerable people.
I love how they're only saying all lives matter now when people are saying Black Lives Matter. But, like, when did all lives matter when they were finding out about children in cages? When did all lives matter when the president and his people were saying the Chinese virus and attacking Asian folk? When did all lives matter when they were spraying down Native Americans for defending their own fucking land?
When did all lives matter when they were storming the state house with their guns and no masks on because they were uncomfortable?
All lives matter. They've been spewing
all
it
lives
for a
matter
while.
When they were starting to charge women for miscarriages and doctors with higher charges than actual fucking rapists for abortions.
They've been spewing the all lives matter thing for a little while now, mainly because of the fact that it's their way of trying to bury it as a
control.
race issue,
That's it. It's a power play.
It's a power play. Well, everybody's lives matter. Well, look, I get that, but you're not going through what they're going through right now at all. And
no, everybody's lives matter when it's convenient for them.
Right.
And the best analogy is if my house is on fire and I am asking you, like, get help, I need the fire department. The fire department starts spraying down my house. Do you go up to the firefighter?
What about my house?
Excuse me, what about my house? Can you spray over here, please? No, you don't, because you're aware that the house that's on fire is the one that we need to focus on. And so not understanding that the Black Lives Matter movement is the same situation is like mind-boggling to me.
I saw
like it's not complicated.
really good.
It's an extension.
I saw a
of
really good like analogy that's a lot like the house analogy. It said, imagine you're giving a eulogy at your son's funeral, and you're talking about how special he was and how important he was to you. And someone walks up to the podium, grabs the mic out of your hand, and starts talking about, oh well, all children are important.
Right.
It's
like
it's
all children are important, but these are the children that are affected right now.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna just speak for a minute. Hold on. I was just trying to say the Black Lives Matter movement is an extension of an issue that's been going on for well over like 150 years now in this country. You know, people of my pigmentation have been oppressing people of ethnicity forever, and I doubt that it wasn't going on in other countries before we even reached this country and decided that the Native Americans' land it's now ours. It's not yours anymore. We're going to slowly work our way across the country, and we're going to give you less and less and let you have less and less of what was your land to begin with. You know?
And then we're going to force you to conform with our ideals for a society by sending you to basically relearn everything, stop speaking your language, stop dressing culturally the way that you typically do, and be like us.
Well, it's... You know, we white folks, we made a life out of moving across the lands and basically saying we own this and we own this and we own this, taking land away from people that did not believe in ownership of land but believed that they were one with the land.
Right.
You know, it was.
Right.
I'm whitey and I'm embarrassed to be white. I really am. Oh,
dude, it's fine. Plenty of white people are sick of white people's racist bullshit. I'm with you.
Which I think, honestly, is, I think the nicest thing that I've seen out of this whole thing is so many of us are kind of coming together a lot more than it becoming kind of like a race thing. There's so many of us that are coming out and in support, and each community is taking that support and lifting each other up with it, which I think is awesome to see. So if any good comes from it, at least there's that.
And I think there's this like underlying idea of like when we see something that is blatantly wrong, like when we see something that's blatantly wrong, like when we are at a protest and we see like Nazis starting to pretend that their Black Lives Matter in order to create a riot,
right?
We all are able to say, okay, I might be from this gang and you might be from that gang, but we're going to work together to destroy that gang for a hot day. You know what I mean? People who have hated each other since the inception of their organizations or their, like, you know, whatever the case may be, like their gangs, their groups, whatever. People who have hated each other since the inception of those groups are now tying their flags together and being like, no, we're going to stop killing each other because that's not going to allow them to use this narrative of black on black crime or of like gang violence to negate what we're saying, because we're trying to be peaceful. White people are coming in and inciting violence because angry white men like to do that sometimes. And then
honestly, I'm pretty sure that it's all the like, I want the quarantine to be over people who are just taking all their aggression out that they wanted to take out over at the State House in Minnesota.
I agree. And like the thing is, I saw last night, I was watching my friends live stream. It's actually someone that you know from back in the day. I was watching their live stream.
I think I know what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure I was watching them too.
Yeah, and they were talking to another friend, and one individual is Asian and white, and another individual is just white, just whiter than white, whitey. And these individuals are having a conversation, and one of them says, I was here basically waiting for this to happen, because right before, fireworks had been set off in the direction of the State House and things like that. So one of them's there talking about, I was basically waiting for this rioting to start. And the other one is basically with the crowd standing there screaming, peaceful protest, and trying to like maintain the peace. And I think that shows this kind of level of entitlement that certain individuals have, especially white men, to the idea of like, yes, this might be a movement to support you, but we want to support you not in the way that you need to be supported, but in the way that we feel like makes us feel better. And what makes us feel better is violence and destruction, which is then going to be taken out on you, because this whole situation that we're talking about is police brutality against black and brown bodies disproportionately. So if we white people cause a problem, you are the ones who will be hurt for it.
It's important to remember as a pigmentally challenged white male that we need to learn to stand up with you and not stand up for you.
Yes.
We need to stand with you. You're able to stand up for yourself, but we need to be able to stand behind you and say we're with you.
Honestly, the best thing that we could be doing right now is just using ourselves as a shield while they do what they need to do. Providing medical assistance and like standing in front of them, standing between them and the cops.
I mean, I even watched it unfold like a couple of nights ago when the supposed riot occurred in Boston. I am loath to call it that. But when the supposed riot occurred in Boston the first night, I was watching my friends at a peaceful protest. And then I was watching them suddenly running for their lives. And I was realizing as I was watching, like, that projectile came from a white person, and now the black people are fleeing. The Hispanic people and Latino people and Asian people even are fleeing for their lives, and that same white person who threw that projectile is still standing there. That says enough about the situation to me, because the reality is the only people who are doing things like that are people who know they can get away with it. And the people who know they can get away with it are the people who know that police brutality does not typically occur against them.
Right.
And they're putting everyone around them in danger by starting things like that.
Right.
I have an aunt that lives in Boston, and she was trying to say that it was a peaceful protest and all of this and that, and that she was watching the news all day, live streaming. And I'm like, the news isn't going to report what's actually going on there. They're going to report what's trending. They're going to report what's a good story. They're not going to report a peaceful protest. They want to report action.
Right.
So like, she's telling me that what I was watching on my friend's live streams was inaccurate. And I'm like, you can't say that. It was peaceful until cops drove their fucking vans through the crowd at like fucking somewhere between 30 and 50 miles an hour. Like, they were zooming through the fucking crowd trying to run people down and get them to get out of the fucking way. And there was an entire street right next to them that they could have gone down. They deliberately went down through the crowd.
Right.
And I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I think a lot of what's going on is that you're seeing all of these. I think you're completely right, is that you're seeing all of these things on people's live streams, on people's TikToks, and they're publishing stuff of people peacefully protesting. And honestly, I think a lot of what's happening is the police are just saying, well, we're going to have to break this up one way or another. So even if they're not violently protesting, we're going to have to push them out of the way to get them to go home one way or another. And then it's inciting violence.
Yep. There's another thing. Tear gas is illegal to use in actual warfare because it's deadly. But it's okay to use it on your own citizens to break up a crowd because they're using it outside.
Right. And they're using it
hit by the canisters. Exactly. People have died from getting hit by the canisters. These rubber bullets, which are more fucking grenade sized, fucking, they're not supposed to be shooting them directly at people. They're supposed to shoot them at the ground to ricochet off people, or to ricochet off the ground to like slow it down a little bit before it hits the people. It has a metal fucking center. This is killing people. It's causing people to lose their eyes. There's there's hundreds of photos of people getting hit by rubber bullets, and people are saying, "Oh, that's definitely not a rubber bullet. It has to be a rock or something." Like, we know what we fucking see.
Right.
Right. I know what you shot me in the face. Thank you. Like, I'm aware.
Right.
And I think one of the things that I have been struggling with lately is this idea that, like, I was with you until you started looting. This idea to me is so insane. Because, first of all, 2 points on that. One, this entire country was built on the looting and pillaging of different minority groups, of your own people too. Like, let's not forget the Boston Massacre started as a peaceful protest that turned into a clash between British soldiers and patriots. So if you're on the side of the cops in this, you're actually not on the side of Americans. You're on the side of oppressors. That's just a fact, baseline, pure and simple. Second thing, they're like, this isn't the right way to protest. And Trevor Noah said it best. He said, when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, everybody was mad, and they said, this isn't the way to protest. When they marched on Selma, everybody was mad and said, this isn't the way to protest. In apartheid South Africa, when there were peaceful protests, they said, this isn't the way to protest. And the reality is, there is never a right way to protest, because the people who are uncomfortable with your protest are supposed to be uncomfortable with your protest. Because if they're not, they can ignore you.
Right. I think that's the problem. They want it to just go away. They want people to just go home and to shut up about it. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with not being able to go where they want to go because there's a protest going on and it's going to slow down traffic, or they don't want to listen to it on the news. They just want it to go away so they can think about something else, which is more white privilege. Like
a Karen inconvenience is more important than a Trayvon killed. That's the ideology of this country as a baseline. A Karen inconvenienced is more important than a Trayvon killed.
Right.
That's it.
Yep. No one gets to talk shit about looting until every item in every fucking museum is returned to its rightful culture.
Yep.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Fucking, like...
And I mean, on top of that...
Rioting is all of a sudden a terrible thing, but look at the Boston Tea Party. Y'all were cool with that shit.
Now. I wonder what they would have done then.
And I think
all kinds of white people fucking loot and riot when their fucking hockey team or their fucking football team wins the game. They go fucking crazy and destroy their cities. But God forbid people stand up for human fucking rights.
Right, and I think that, like, a big part of this is just the idea that, like, you're not protesting properly, this isn't right, that isn't right, etc., etc. Yeah. But, like, the reality of the situation is, you told us we couldn't protest by taking a knee because we were disrespecting the troops. You told us we couldn't protest by marching. Eventually, we run out of fucking options. I'm like, don't talk to me about disrespecting the troops. My fiance is former Navy. And the reality is, the most disrespectful thing you can do to the troops is say that you want to order them to fire on their own people. That's the most disrespectful thing that you can do to the military, not allow people to exercise the rights that these men and women in arms fought for. Like, no.
Right, and the military doesn't even want to be there.
Exactly.
I mean, they're walking away. They're willingly. they don't want to be there. They're speaking with the protesters. The protesters are saying, "We need you to go away," and they literally have been putting down their shields and everything else and just walking away because they honestly probably don't want any part in it to begin with, because they're fighting wars for these people. And now they have to turn around and then fight them instead.
It's ridiculous. It's just all ridiculous.
Yeah.
Being asked to suppress protesters that have every right to protest.
Right.
There is no...
Right, which is what I think they have the problem with, is that this is within their rights. So why are they there?
Exactly.
Yep. Let's do a little bit of trolley and take it easy.
Yeah, it does sound like we're running out of steam. We can, if I even know where this thing is. Oh my god, I am so unprepared. I'm usually better at this.
That's fine. We can chit chat for a minute. Take a chill pill.
There's really just a whole bunch of dishevelment going on around me, and I'm ill prepared. I'm not usually the guy that's ill prepared. I apologize. I just actually sent you guys a very interesting article because we were talking about the nursing home issues, and what I was going to say is,
I saw that.
My mother is or was, I should say, a registered nurse. She worked at a nursing home in Haverhill that's now just a foundation. Not Haverhill. My apologies. It was the border, around the border of Methuen and New Hampshire, Salem, New Hampshire. And I am stumbling all over my tongue. I apologize. It's been a long work day. But conditions in nursing homes have been bad for a very long time. And a lot of these nursing homes were heavily unionized. So it became less of an issue of taking care of the residents and more of an issue of covering your asses when little mistakes happen. And then little mistakes became big mistakes, and it became more important to cover the big mistakes. And so that's how women such as Miss Elizabeth Wetlaufer come into question. This woman who was basically, she was a serial killer that actually preyed on, she was a nurse and she preyed on the people in the home that she was in, killing 8 residents and almost murdering 6 others. And they basically said if she had not come forward to basically turn herself in, that they never would have found out, because the unions were so well organized at covering up deaths that shouldn't have happened and not reporting them and basically kind of turning a blind eye. So this kind of stuff's been going on for decades.
Hi, Omar. Welcome back.
How's it going?
How's it going, man? I see
Chris over there.
Welcome back to the closing minutes of the podcast.
Yeah.
Closing minutes.
I think we can do like 2 or 3 rounds of the trolley.
Okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to pick some stuff at random then. Rather than actually sort through, I'm just going to go ahead and just pick a handful at random, and we can go from there. So, you want to explain the trolley game real quick while I pick a few out?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. Explain it.
I thought you said, do you want me to explain?
I was asking if you could explain to them while
okay, so basically the trolley game is you're driving a trolley down a train track, right? And it splits into a fork, and you got to kill one or the other, right? There's one person on one side and another person on another side. Sometimes it's a group of people, sometimes it's just one person. You never know. It's a thing.
Oh,
There's a whole lot of fuck them kids in this game.
Yes, a lot of children playing on the train tracks.
We're going to do like 3 little trolley choices, and then we're going to hang up.
Cool.
Okay, I got 4 picked out, actually, if you don't mind doing 4.
Okay.
All right.
Olivia is on a time schedule, but that's okay. If all the rest of y'all want to keep going?
Oh.
4 is good, yeah.
Okay. We can quickly run over 4 people, right? Can we do that?
Yeah.
All right.
We can do that.
Run them all over.
So we're going to go ahead and start. On our right-hand track, we have a sniper attempting to assassinate your local congressman. Already, I don't want to run him over. And on the left-hand track, we have a tiger with a taste for human flesh.
Like
I have to do the guy with the congressman because I really like animals.
Right?
Well, I mean, who's our congressman?
Right.
Like, it depends on who our congressperson is, because...
I'm in New Hampshire.
Isn't it AOC?
Is a shithead.
Our
Dude,
congressman?
I don't think... Yeah.
I think yours is Ayanna Pressley, isn't it?
Right. Which, I think we could lose her. I mean...
Yeah, it is Ayanna Pressley.
I mean,
I feel bad for the tiger. He's just being a tiger.
Right? I mean, what tiger doesn't want to eat
the
human
tiger
flesh?
that Carol Baskin fed her husband to?
Right?
If so, free the tiger.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not running over the tiger. I'm probably going to hit the sniper.
Yeah.
So, sniper bites it, congressman lives, tiger lives, then eats congressman. All right.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
All right, our next set of victims on our right-hand track, we have the trolley. Oh, what the hell? That's not going to work. That isn't even a thing. It's like an amendment to a thing. I don't know. I didn't know those existed in the game. Okay. So on the a right-hand track, we have an open gateway to hell that will close if hit by a trolley. And on the left-hand track, we have a voodoo doll that looks just like you.
I'm gonna hit the... Oh, wait, no. What if you hit the voodoo doll, you're killing yourself.
Basically.
I know, but the gateway to hell is still open, so you can just pop right out.
True.
Ooh,
I mean, I know I'm going, so I'd hit myself.
That's a fact, actually.
I'm gonna close the gateway to hell.
Right?
I'm
Seriously.
gonna close the gateway to hell, and I'm gonna keep the voodoo doll of myself in case, I ever decide that I want to go out my own way.
I feel like the voodoo doll, I'd crush the voodoo doll. Because like Olivia said, the gateway to hell would then still be open, and I could just float my happy ass right back on out.
I mean, it depends on what level of hell you're in.
Listen, alright. You know me well enough by now.
See what you do, if you know you're going there anyway, what you do is you hit the voodoo doll and you become this spawn level minion, you come back and you take Donald Trump back down there with you.
Matt.
Be a demon on a mission,
Who knows? I could be reborn as the Antichrist.
I don't think so, but...
Trump already beat you there.
That would be hysterical.
You didn't see that Bible smoking while he was
I
jumping up?
want to see you hold the Bible, and then we can decide.
That's why you kept having to shuffle it from hand to hand. It kept burning his hand. All right. Next set of victims on the tracks. We have on the left-hand track the winning lottery ticket with your name on it. And on the on the left-hand track, we have yourself from 10 years in the future.
I'll hit the 10 years. I'll hit the person in the 10 years.
Right, I'll spend my 10 years spending money.
Exactly. I'll spend my 10 years.
I don't know. I think
you know what?
the
No, I'm
lottery
going to spend
ticket.
that 10 years investing, have most of that money into, trust funds for winter.
I say I would do that for Michaela, but it's bullshit. I would definitely spend my money on cars and a nice house. I love my child, but let's not pretend that I'm not selfish as fuck sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, I feel you. I mean, I'd be selfish too, but I'd set up a trust fund for her that would go until she's 18 and just put I don't know, half of what I win.
Oh, we're not talking about
shit.
all of it. We're talking some of it. Okay.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. I'm with you.
No, not all of it. Half of it.
I'm all of it. Sis, what you doing?
So I'd probably go ahead and hit myself 10 years in the future. Keep the lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Just because.
Does that mean you die in 10 years?
That means you die in 10 years, but as long as I set up my loved ones, I don't care.
Yeah. Right?
Those will be a fun 10 years for me, that's for sure.
Exactly.
There you go. I mean, it might as well, if you have the money to do whatever you want, you could probably live your whole life in 10 years.
There needs to be a secondary question here. It says winning lottery ticket with your name on it. Who's to say that the lottery's worth much, though? What lottery ticket is it? I mean, it could be a $5 lottery ticket.
That's
It's got
right.
your name on it, but
He didn't give a price.
That changes everything. No.
Oh my God.
What price
Yeah,
does that
we all
lottery ticket
already
have to
chose our
be
own.
for you to hit yourself 10 years in the future? To sacrifice yourself for a really good 10 years, how much does that have to be?
Oh, God, a lot. It would have to be a
A
lot.
lot. A lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say one of those, like, $500 million jackpots, you know?
Yeah.
At least.
I mean, even just like a few million. Like, most people can't walk around spending millions of dollars in their lifetime, much less, like, in 10 years. So I'd be fine with, like, 10 million. 500 million would be much preferable, but I'm just saying...
I know my tax on spend about 300, like in 4.
Fact.
300 million, not thousand.
My father won $2 million on a scratch ticket the year that I was born. And they got the like checks spread out over 20 years. And, you know, my mom and my dad divorced when I was 3. And they split the checks in half, so my mom got $25,000 every year, like a week after her birthday. All that money's gone. Neither of them invested in a goddamn thing.
Wow.
Did your mom spend most of it on the church?
It was mostly church and like private schooling.
I spent 30 grand in 2 months. I have no idea what I spent it on either. Nothing. I don't know. I don't have anything. So.
There was like 6 years. There was like 6 years in a row where my mom had gotten into like several car accidents every year, or just like one big car accident every year. So she had to go out and buy a new car every year.
Wow.
That's awesome. I remember that.
That money was first.
Right? Thank you. I
That
was waiting for you to say you remember that.
I'm just like, how do you even...
That money was first.
Like, how does one even accomplish that? That seems like it takes skill and...
Right? It does.
We had attention, that's for sure.
I definitely had a skill for hitting things.
Right? We had this fucking like gorgeous house in Plastown, New Hampshire, and my favorite thing about the house was me and my brother, like, we slept in the same room when we were living there, and we lived up there until I was like 6.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this like little like crawl space between me and Marcus's room and my mother's room. So, like, in case there was, like, an emergency or anything, we could crawl through that little hallway thing, and we'd end up next to my mother's bed. Like, that was the coolest fucking thing ever. We called it the East.
I want that.
Anyway, let's get on to the next thing. Sorry.
I've actually
I'm
got one
rambling.
last set. This is the last set. So on your right-hand track, what on earth is that? What's going on?
Hold on. Omar, mute your mic.
Oh, okay.
Have you got your window down, my dude?
Nope. Somebody just passed by in a car with, I don't know, some modified thing, and it sounds like a Formula One.
That's an extra special amount of interference there. That was beautiful. All right. So on our right-hand track, we have a small child who will one day accidentally murder your best friend. And on the left-hand track, a homicidal mime.
Nobody spends any time around mimes anyway, so that homicidal mime would never get the occasion to murder somebody. So, kill the kid.
As I'm thinking that a
I'm killing the
homicidal
kid.
mime would only be able to mime the killings, not really actually go through with it.
Right?
Right, and also, like, again, like I said, nobody
They're
spends
homicidal,
time with
but-
mimes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
might,
like, do we know how many people they're gonna kill? I don't know. So I'm killing the kid.
Right, the kid's killing my best friend, like, no.
right?
Fuck out of that little child, but absolutely the fuck not.
He might feel homicidal, but it's not like he's gonna act on it.
True.
Right. Well, and this also says it's an accident. So he does. Whoever this little child is, he does not murder your friend on purpose. We are,
Okay, but
however,
then
actively
child's
making the
just
choice to
shitty
kill
at
him.
Fuck that kid.
Yeah, fuck that kid.
that child is so shitty at life that they accidentally kill somebody. No. Good night. Goodbye. Sayonara. Take a nap, boy.
I can't wait to tell my best friend I picked. I killed a little kid. I was accidentally
murdered
gonna
a
kill
child
him.
for you.
This game really forces you to make a lot of morally ambiguous choices that involve the murder of children. It really does.
I'm okay with that. This child in particular just seems kind of shitty. We're gonna put that out there.
That's Damien.
There's some other cars here where people just leave their kids on the track for one reason or another, or they're playing on the track, or a preschool happens to be built with trolley tracks running through it, you know.
Exactly.
Leave them on the tracks with headphones.
So that is the last of our trolley tracks for the day.
Awesome. Guys, this was a great fucking discussion. I'm so proud of this episode. You all did fucking wonderful.
Thanks.
But
Love
yeah,
you.
Can't wait to listen.
right?
Same here.
Thank you guys for listening, tuning in, taking care, be safe out there, do what you gotta do. Don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is gonna be alright. Anyway, take care, guys, have a good one, and we will catch you next time.
Life incidents is pending.
Up in the sky, so keep it real, yeah. You said I was free to leave, knew I was gonna stay. I'm a honeybee kind, always in the front view, never looking behind. Always in the present moment, never have to rewind. Always chilling while we sit back and recline like a honeybee kind. Yeah, I said honeybee kind, yeah. Cause I came back when you told me to go away, and you said I was free to leave, but you knew I was gonna stay. You have been burning for your love. Yeah.